Let's dive right into this explainer by addressing something very specific, and honestly, maybe a little bit uncomfortable. I want you to take a look around your life right now. Do you see a graveyard of half-finished projects? I mean, maybe there's an acoustic guitar gathering dust in the corner of your room right now, or a half-coded website sitting idle on your desktop, a pristine, incredibly expensive set of baking tools hidden in a kitchen drawer, a podcasting mic still in its box, or maybe you just had this sudden, intense urge to learn jujitsu only to drop it a month later. If this sounds like your life, you probably feel a very specific type of shame. It's this nagging, quiet feeling that you just can't stick with anything long enough to actually matter. You see, society is incredibly quick to slap a label on you. They'll call you a dilettante, they tell you that your mind is chaotic, unfocused, or that you just flat out lack the grit to hunker down and specialize in one thing. If you're feeling overwhelmed by all of this right now, I want to speak directly to that anxiety. You probably feel like an imposter because you can't just pick a single lane and stay in it. And frankly, it hurts. It hurts to watch your hyper-focused, highly specialized peers seemingly accelerate right past you, climbing the corporate ladder, while you're still out there trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up. You might even hear that old phrase, "a jack of all trades is a master of none," ringing in your head on a loop. And you probably use it to beat yourself up on a daily basis. But you're actually forgetting the rest of the quote. The full actual saying goes like this: "A jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one." Modern psychology is completely subverting this common wisdom that tells you to just pick a lane. It suggests that this feeling of being scattered isn't a defect at all. Instead, it's a symptom of a highly adaptive nervous system. You aren't failing to specialize. You're actually entirely unconsciously building a rare and incredibly powerful cognitive architecture. Part 1. The Specialist's Fragility Trap. To truly understand why you feel this intense pressure, we really have to look at the lie we were all sold. For the last century, the rules of our economy heavily rewarded the famous 10,000-hour rule. We praised the people who dug one single hole a mile deep. And look, this hyper-specialization works perfectly in what psychologists call a kind environment. Think of a game like golf or playing classical music. The rules never change, the feedback is immediate and accurate, and if you practice that exact same swing or play those same scales for 10,000 hours, you win. But your brain instinctively knows we've shifted away from that reality. We live in a wicked environment now. The rules of our economy, our tech, our culture, they change every single day. The feedback is delayed and honestly often inaccurate. A strategy that worked yesterday could literally bankrupt you tomorrow.
And this brings us right to the core conflict of our modern era. The deep, single-lane specialist experiences specialist fragility. They've optimized themselves for a very specific set of conditions. So the moment the industry changes or an AI automates their one specific highly practiced task, they break. They become obsolete overnight because they literally only know how to do one thing. But your M-shaped adaptability is completely different. Unconsciously, you naturally drift from learning electrical wiring, studying yoga, and then suddenly you're out DJing rave music on the weekends. To an outside observer, sure, you look totally unfocused, but beneath the surface, you are gathering immensely adaptable data points from completely disparate domains. You're building a toolkit to survive a wicked, unpredictable environment.
Part 2. The Magic of FAR Transfer.
This brings us to a fascinating psychological solution that actually turns your chaos into true innovation. Psychology defines FAR transfer as taking a concept from one completely unrelated field and applying it to another. Now, this is fundamentally different from the specialist's approach, which is known as near transfer. Specialists only solve familiar problems using the exact same old tools they've always used. Because they've spent their entire lives in one lane, they literally cannot see outside their silo. When a novel problem hits, they're completely stuck. But your scattered mind, you naturally synthesize. You intuitively draw connections between things that seemingly have absolutely no business being connected.
Just imagine a web developer who used to be a beekeeper and a commercial farmer. On paper, agricultural skills and managing dirt have absolutely nothing to do with typing software code into a computer, right? But that developer profoundly understands organic systems, symbiotic relationships, and natural growth cycles from their time out in the fields. They use FAR transfer to apply that deep knowledge to cultivating scalable software ecosystems. When a bug appears, they don't just see a coding error, they see an imbalance in the ecosystem, kind of like a pest problem in a crop cycle. A specialist coder who has only ever stared at screens could never grasp that perspective. The generalist isn't just writing lines of code, they're cultivating a living environment. That is FAR transfer. And that is where true paradigm-shifting innovation actually comes from.
Part 3. Your M-shaped potential. Now, knowing all of this is a huge relief, I'm sure, But we still need to address the immediate, crushing problem of burnout. Because even if your mind is built for the future, you still deal with that lingering feeling of being behind your specialized peers who are out there becoming senior vice presidents while you switch tracks yet again. The reason you feel overwhelmed is that you're misunderstanding the geometry of your own potential. You aren't just T-shaped, which means having broad general knowledge with only one deep specialty. You are M-shaped. An M-shaped mind means you possess multiple, distinct pillars of deep knowledge, all connected across the top by a vital bridge of relentless curiosity. You aren't just a generalist, you're a multi-specialist.
But here is the trap you keep falling into. You cannot build all the pillars of that M at the exact same time. If you try to learn data science and write a sprawling fantasy novel and start a small business all in the same month, you're absolutely going to collapse under the weight of it. To avoid this burnout, you have to practice serial mastery. This means navigating your life in distinct seasons. You have to build those pillars of depth sequentially rather than simultaneously. You have to give yourself permission to go all in on one obsession for a few years, knowing full well that you'll eventually pivot to the next.
Take the timeline of a 53-year-old polymath as a perfect example of serial mastery in action. In his 20s, he spent his season obsessing completely over music and art. In his 30s, he needed to pivot for stability, so he built a programming pillar specifically to pay the bills. But here's the absolute genius part. He intentionally turned down high-stress promotions, keeping a strict 30-hour workweek to protect his psychic energy. An M-shaped mind needs downtime to synthesize. He didn't quit art, he just let game design and philosophy flourish organically on nights and weekends. And eventually, all those sequentially built pillars merged into his own highly successful personal video game projects. He let his passions flourish over seasons, rather than forcing them all to bloom on the exact same day.
Part 4. The strength of redundancy. This leads us to the ultimate, unbreakable advantage of your varied interests. Let's use a really fascinating biological metaphor to understand this. Look at the elephant. Elephants, despite their massive size and the literal millions of cells in their bodies, rarely ever get cancer. And the reason why is that they possess massive genetic redundancy. They have multiple copies of the exact same cancer-fighting gene. If one fails, another immediately steps in and takes over. In nature, redundancy is never a waste of energy. It's an ultimate life-saving strength.
Your chaotic interests are your redundancy. If you're just a specialist software engineer and an artificial intelligence model learns to do your job tomorrow, you're terrified, right? Your entire livelihood is threatened. But if you're an M-shaped individual who knows how to code, fix complex electrical wiring, repair HVAC motors, and teach English as a second language, you are absolutely unbreakable. You haven't been wasting your time dabbling, you've been practicing strategic adaptability. Your diverse skills are a massive safety net, ensuring that no matter what happens to the economy, to the job market, or to technology, you always have a pivot ready. You have multiple copies of the survival gene.
So, let me leave you with this powerful, provocative reframe. What if your graveyard of hobbies was actually a university of your own making? It is time to stop apologizing for your scattered interests. Those half-finished projects were never failures. They were semesters in a highly customized education, perfectly suited for a wicked, unpredictable world. You were never meant to be just one thing. Embrace it. You were built to be the bridge between worlds that others cannot even see.